Hey everyone, we're here a little early, getting ready for the longsword class that we're going to be doing, but just going to let it start now. We're a couple minutes early, but this will allow people to start signing in. Hope you're all staying safe, taking care of yourselves, your friends, your family. Remember, look out for those that are around you that aren't able to get out, the older people, the ones that are immunocompromised or just maybe don't even have a vehicle. The only way we're going to get through this is to do it together, separately, something like that. So stay safe, stay with each other, watch out for your friends and family. Today on the longsword class, what I want to talk about is the different parts of the sword, the way we can break it up. Also, I want to talk a little bit about how the different parts of the sword interact and it's going to affect the way that you move your opponent's sword around. We've still got about a minute left before we're scheduled to go live, but I'm glad you're here and this should be a good class. Welcome to sunny California for those of you that aren't in California. This is our springtime. It's a tough life, but somebody has to do it. I think we have two people here so far. Good morning, Shay. Glad to have you here with us. Hope everything's okay for you down in Australia. So we'll get started here in just a minute or so, or about 30 seconds, and we'll get going. Uh, I'll go over once again what we're going to be doing, and that'll get us going and moving. If you have your sword available, part of what we're doing today you can do as a solo drill, but we're also going to talk a little bit about theory to make it a little more uh, usable in why you're doing this, what we're doing, and how it's going to affect your opponent's blade as well as your blade. So, with the sword, we see all the time people talking about strong and weak, or strong, middle, weak. In the Italian, we have forte, mezza, debole, or in what I prefer, which is the French, is foible, just because it's a word that gets used or has been used in our language more often than debole has. So strong, middle, weak, but every portion of the sword the, is, or let me start that again. If we break the sword into thirds, we have strong, middle, weak, point. If we look at the strong, we have forte, mezza, foible of each portion. And if you want to go in depth like the Spanish masters did of the 17th century, they could break it into amazing amounts of parts. And then their theory was to do, you're basically doing math during the fight. Crazy. We're not going to go that in depth. We have our three parts: forte, mezza, foible. For each of the three parts, we have forte, mezza, foible. We have our forte, 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 mezza, forte, foible, mezza, forte, mezza, 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 foible, foible, forte, foible, mezza, foible, foible, point. And then the tip goes over the point to protect it. This point does not have a tip. So what we're going to look at today with the different parts of the blade is, as we move through our actions, how we interact with the opponent's blade and where the mechanical advantage moves through our blade, allowing us to change the interactions between the two blades. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And because it's nice and sunny, I'm going to wear a hat to protect my neck. And
hey, Marlo, good to have you with us.
Glad to have you here. So what we're going to start on today is going off of a class that we did a couple weeks ago with the center line drill. If my partner gives me a cadente, I don't move, that's the lower prominent here, we're going to do a center line drill off of that. Again, as I come through and hold, here I found his forte foible, or his forte forte with my foible foible. So we have complete opposites. We have falsettes to falsettes. As we continue this, you can see it moving and hold. So here we have mezza forte to mezza, his mezza forte to my mezza mezza. On my falsetto to his falsetto. However, with a simple rotation of my hand, I now put his mezza foible to my forte foible, just with a simple shift of the hand. The rotation from my false edge to my true edge changes the orientation of the parts of my blade contacting his blade, and the width of my blade moves his point significantly. Let's angle this way so that my back's to the camera, they can see my head. So I'm here, you can see how close his blade is to my head, but with a simple shift to my other edge, it's a pretty significant change. And not only does that change the mechanical connection between our blades, or let me rephrase that. Not only does it change the movement of his blade and the mechanical interaction of our blades, it lines me up for my next action. The solo drill I want to be able to work on is we'll start in open iron door, middle iron door, short guard, foible, foible to his forte, forte. Then, as he's sliding down, I don't lift above short guard. Instead, I lift my hand up and allow the movement down his blade. Let's do that again. Nice and slow, check this out. I come through, I find him, hold, foible to foible, foible to forte, forte. Continue. That moves us around. However, because I have my true edge on his true edge, I have no support underneath my blade. So we're not going to leave it there. As we come through and I find him and I lift up, I'm going to use my pommel to rotate my false edge towards him. I'm not going to make contact with his blade with my false edge. I'm just going to rotate my false edge towards him. So we do that again. Foible, foible. So now, I actually have his true edge on my false edge. And he's at my 14 on his mezza foible. Almost foible, foible. So do that again. Go ahead. I spoke incorrectly. When I said I'm going to rotate my false edge towards him, I'm actually rotating my false edge towards me. And when I do that, you see how that turns the blade in my hand. We're not here anymore. because with this action, he can just push right through my thumb. But with this, he pushes into my arm, and that makes me stronger. So we're rotating from our foible to our forte, but we're not moving across his blade. We're letting his blade move across our blade. Do that. As we come through, that's going to give me this. Now I have my option of what I want to do. We're going to go in and do a pummel bind. We talked about that in a previous class. As I do my pummel bind, I'm going to go over the top, so I'm going to woman's guard. So I'm not just going to leave my sword here, I'm going to incorporate my left hand. Measure. I come through, find him. As I do my pummel bind, I step forward with my left foot and slap his hand with the back of my arm, leaving myself in window guard in transition to woman's guard. Now, when I do it, move backwards, on the left hand. When I do it, you'll notice my hand is just outside his shoulder. I'm not pushing his hands away. As soon as I push his hands away, I give him the opportunity to use his other weapon, his other hand. So the hands are not stay up again. Right here. Find him, rotate, and now as I come forward, I'm going to push his elbow down with my pommel to his teeth. And because I'm stepping with it, this is where Fiore would say, make his teeth blossom. For my injury, I'm going to my second level at his elbow. My sword arm is also protecting against his left hand. So if he goes to grapple me, I've got that arm as I'm driving my pommel. So I'm covering his left arm with my right arm as I drive my pointer. And then we'll take a break and look at any questions. And that gives me the strike I need into his body. I cover his left arm with my right arm. And even if he were to step back, I'm still in a position that I can use my sword. And this is where we go back into the mechanical portion of my blade. Go back to that position. So I've just covered him here. I'm trying to bash him in the teeth, but he steps back. So as I come through, I find him at my, if I just cut down like I'm using an axe, I find him at my forte foible. And as we know, the forte does not provide the amount of strength in the cut that we want. The way I get to the other portion of my blade, as he steps back, I pull my pommel to my pocket, and that puts my foible mezza, my foible mezza, on his head for the strike. And that's how I move it around, is cutting through to make that strike. One of the reasons I like the flamberge, you can feel every one of those little cuts coming through. Let's go ahead and do that one more time, please. Second measure. and I can just drive through. Now, he stepped back. And the reason he stepped back was not because he was trying to avoid my strike. Because he was twisted when I came in, he had no choice. And this goes back to the concept of tempo and how many beats in one tempo. Before he can do anything else to try to defend himself, he has to stop following. You agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with that.
So I can manipulate his tempo because of his reactions to me. And do we have anybody? No, nobody else yet.
No comments or questions or anything at the moment here, but we do have jumped up with more people.
Great. Once you've signed in, please go ahead and just say hello. And if you have any questions about what we're working on, I would ask that you go ahead and feel free to ask the questions, and we will go ahead and answer them as best we can. If I don't know, I'll lie to you, but at least I'll give you an answer. So let's go ahead and let's switch sides and do that again. I want to do it one more time from this angle. Then I want to take it into the elbow lock, and we're going to look at that action. So start at 9 doors. Let's measure. How do you do it?
You make it look pretty good. Check measure.
There's that strike. Now you have to fall back, so you can't help it because you twist it. What that means is I can do it with anything. I don't need quillings. Let me show you what I mean. Sorry, Johnny.
It's okay. Oh, man.
That chair is back. So I don't need quillings. I've got something like this. He goes and he throws that attack at me. I can try to beat it to the side, but then he's just going to hit me with something else. So instead, and I've got everything I need right there. Right? Perfect. Want to do that one more time? Yes, sir. That's kind of fun. What happened on that one is as we went through, he actually caught on the back of the shovel. I'm not using it like a baseball bat because if I do that, he has too many options to avoid my strike or set it aside. But if I come in and I find him, let's go do it one more time. Let's go. I'm in here, he attacked, and hold. Same thing. I'm not trying to bat it aside, I'm just putting it away. If he continues on that same trajectory, I lose my fingers. Great thing for him to do. I can't, because I have no quillins, I have no way to protect my fingers in this position, which is why I roll up here. Now, he can still continue and take my fingers, because that, well, no, he's moving in this direction. So I'll do that again. Well, but all the way down, he's still going to take my fingers. So the way I get out of that, I rotate my edge. Again. Hold. Here he's going to continue down. I never changed his trajectory. If I stay here, he can just step in and grapple me, feed me his pommel, whatever he chooses to do. So I need to change the angle between the two of us. And that gives me the angle I need right there. So now when he steps back to protect himself, I take him to the knee. And then, like Shaun of the Dead or something like that, rest it down, And he's done. Can't do that in this way.
No, you can't.
So whether it's a blade or another tool, I've got the options available. What's that?
Shim McClay. I know the Italians call it spada, but I think that is not what they meant.
It all works, right? Let's put this away.
Yes, it does, Ezekiel. It makes digging the grave much more convenient. Thank you.
So there is a bit of using the mechanical advantages of the blade with the rotation of the edges to set aside the incoming opponent's attack, whether I have a set of quillins or not. That means I can do it with a cane, I can do it with a stick, I can do it with a broom. The only thing is that I'm not stopping his energy. And this begs the question of what if he's really, really trying to hit me? Still does the job because I'm stepping out of the way. Unfortunately, we don't have the safety equipment here at the backyard to do it. Otherwise, I'd let him really hit me. And part of the reason I'm afraid to do that is, honestly, I might screw up, and I know he would feel terrible for doing that. Well, maybe a little. But the other reason is actually if I do it right. If I do it right, and he puts a lot of energy into my weapon, there's no way I can stop it in time.
Yeah.
If I just drive through and I do everything right, I can't stop it from hitting him and transferring his energy back into him. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but I actually like John. I know, you watch me do this to him, and it doesn't look like it, but I'm still alive, so there's proof. I will tell you there is turnabout. We were doing the spear section, and I have the proof that techniques work and that he does get to hit me back sometimes. He did everything right. And Aziz, Emmett, built the back of my head protection. Love it. He hit me. See if I can get the right angle on it.
A little tough to get to.
He hit me so well. Not too much shadow. You can see that crack right there. He hit me with the spearhead perfectly, did everything right, and cracked the hardened plastic on the back of my helmet. And the reason it worked is because he did everything right. And once you have all of your body moving in the correct way, it's really hard not to do it well. So, all right. So now I want to take you into the other portion of it, which is the arm lock. So my opponent, my lovely assistant John, gives me that same kind of attack once he's done stretching. I'm going to do everything the same, but instead of stopping my hand on his elbow, I'm going to continue past his elbow, thumb up. Let's decide. Okay. Ankle look good? You want this way. That's right. No. Great. Right there. All right. So he launches his attack. I come through too fast. Okay, pressure. He launches his attack. I come through. I find it. I do everything the same. I drive that open. But now when I step past his shoulder this way. Thumb up. And then you'll notice, I'm not on his elbow. I'm in front of his elbow on his forearm. So I'm not on his elbow. I'm in front of his elbow. My sword is still here. From this point, I turn my hand, thumb down, and I put my hand, my palm, on my belly button. And that gives me the angle I want. It also, okay? It also locks both of his hands in place. We'll do it one more time. You come through, I find, I cover, I go through, then get up, rotate back. Okay, now, you see how I have both of his hands? When I pull it through, I actually lock. I lock his hands together. I lock his hands together. I've still got my sword up here, and I'm locking him in. Think you can move in that position? Just to get a little closer?
I can, yeah.
No, not to get out.
Move into your space? Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so I want to do that again. Back up that way just a little bit. A little bit more. Cool. You're going to step forward. Okay.
Second measure.
This is lovely because your sword is just missing the umbrella.
That makes sense.
Go ahead, do it again. Measure.
Much better.
Right.
I just stand it better.
So he comes through. I find it. I cover. My hand goes down. And you can see how I've got both hands locked in place. And now I can just beat him, or I've got him locked in here. I just go to short guard and then long guard. Okay. If he's strong, and John's strong, I may not be able to extend out and do the damage to his shoulder. But that's okay. That's why half swording is Let's go do that again. Second measure.
Second measure.
He throws his attack. I come through. I lock this up. I hit him once to get his attention, drop my sword down, and then push my point up. And that'll really do the shoulders. You can poke him a couple times in the belly or the jimmy if you want to. Again, just to get his attention. And I promise you, I said this before, and I'll say it again. If you stab a man in the groin, you will get his attention.
That's true.
Let's see. How well does this one work? It's the smaller guy versus the bigger guy. Well, okay, so John is taller than me, but that's Ezekiel, right?
Yeah, Ezekiel says worse, much worse.
Yeah, because then if the smaller guy's doing that, let me change the way I say that. In every fight, you want to not go to their level because that weakens you structurally. Instead, you take them to your level. So if John does this to me, you ready to do it?
Yep.
I think you got it?
We'll find out.
All right. Second measure.
Okay.
So I throw my attack. He finds me. Other side. He rotates through. He steps. Turns his handle. You can hold it. Okay. Also, now you're on my. Now, look at this. At this point, he's fighting at my level. Take it to your level. Gilly, yeah, okay. All right, good. I got to do that every now and then to remember to be kind to him, so he'll be kind to me. Because you're taking them to your level, if you're taller than them, you lift them up. If you're shorter than them, you bring them down. In either case, their shoulder and their elbow move in ways that they are not designed to move. Then you hear a pop and a scream, and it will take them out of the fight, or at least distract. You cover some of the basics of Fiore if you have the time. Basics of Fiore. Sure. To take Fiore, which is a very, very complicated and intense system. It's got a lot of layers to it. If this was Shrek, it'd be like an onion. But that was for my own entertainment.
Mine too.
The basics of Fiore. If you don't know what to do, push their elbow. And always dominate the center line. In Fiore, we have four known manuscripts. We have the Pisani Dossi, which is owned by the Navati family in Italy. I only know one person outside of that family who's been able to see it, Brian Stokes. And Brian is the one I consider my Fiore teacher. When I have a question, he's the man I go to. Then there's the Getty, which is in the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, which is the most commonly used pictures and translations. Up until about 2010, 2012, the Pisani Dossi was the most commonly used manuscript, and that's because in 1902, Professor Navati made a facsimile of it. But their photograph, their technology for photographs wasn't good enough. So he redrew all of the pictures in the manuscript. What that means for us is we lost all the nuances within the manuscript. And there's a lot of symbology as well as, what's the word? One leg's bigger than the other leg. The garter tells us, yeah, thank you. A lot of artist perspective in the manuscript that was lost in the 1902 version. But that was all we really had available to us until the mid 2000s. I still have a copy of the Getty manuscript on microfiche that I ordered directly from the museum many, many years ago. And it's a terrible facsimile because the camera just didn't pick it up. So we have the Pisani Dossi, owned by the Navati family. We have the Getty. We also have the Morgan, which is in the Morgan Museum in New York. And then the fourth one that we know about so far, there may be others, but the fourth one we have so far is in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, and it's called the Florius. The Florius and the Pisani Dossi are both written in Latin. The Getty and the Morgan are both written in Italian. In the Pisani Dossi manuscript, it's called Fior de Battaglia, the Flower of Battle, written by Fiore della Verde. Fiore is his name in Latin. In the Getty version, written in Italian, he calls himself Fior. There's no E on him. And so he's often called Fiore, but he names himself Fior. And so I generally tend to call him Fior, which is something I picked up from Brian again, because who are we to argue with what he calls himself? So we have the Pisani Dossi, the Getty, the Morgan, and the Florius. The most commonly used manuscript copy now is the Getty. Although there are some great books out there that compare the illustrations from all four manuscripts side by side. However, keep in mind that again, the Pisani Dossi was rewritten to be published in 1902, and Professor Navati redrew all the illustrations. So we can't really consider that 1902 version a first-hand representation of the book because it's not. It's been redrawn. The words have been transcribed correctly, but the pictures have not. And can you take a look at the?
No, you just said there the family left the room. 1 sec. Otherwise, there's no other pieces up right now.
Okay, and that's okay because all of this can be viewed again. I'm gonna upload it to the YouTube channel so you can watch it there, and you can watch it at your leisure. So once going back to the question about size, never stoop to their level, just like our moms told us over and over and over again when we were kids. Bring them up to your level. So if you're taller than them, lift them up. If you're shorter than them, bend them down. For myself, I generally tend to fight fairly low. So if John and I were to get into a fencing match with Longsword, we'll take a fight. Whatever you want. Actually, so you can see our. Okay, you're down. I'm on the down. Stand right next to you. You can see how much taller he is than me. So behind, really front, I'm about even with his eyes. The top of my head's about even with his eyes. But when he takes his guard position, I get down really low. And I can still do all of this action. Go ahead. And I really pull him down into a position. Okay? So here, I can palm on the teeth, I can hit him in the ribs, I can go to half sword, catch him in the groin, poke him in the belly, or just push it up and really torque out the shoulder. Now, I'm not an either or kind of guy. I'm a both and. Why should I only do one of those options when I can do all of them? Doctor says I'm getting better though. So there's some of the use of the mechanical advantages through the actions. Now, we're about half hour into this 1 hour class. So what I want to do now is I want to take this same type of action and look at this in an unarmed fashion. So we'll go ahead and put the sword down. Probably don't need that one right now either. So, same kind of idea. If he throws a punch, I can slap it aside. Go back to against them. Foible to foible. Foible, foible to foible, foible. Again. Mesofoible to foible forte. This. Again. Forte, forte to mesofoible. Foible, foible. Now, bend your elbow. See how it's bent? That means I'm behind his elbow. Now it's back to foible, foible to foible, foible, giving me the options I need. Hold one. All right, so do that again. Foible, foible to foible, foible. Foible, forte to mesofoible. Foible, foible to foible, foible into my strikes. Now, once we move it along, good, good. Okay, go ahead. We can just drive through. Good. Good. I can get in there. And I can work on either side. Do it again. So. Foible, foible. And now I go foible, foible to forte, forte, which you would think is going to give him all the mechanical advantage, except that I'm driving that punch up into the brachial plexus. What happens if you get punched right there?
Hurts like hell, and your hand can go numb.
So, do that again. Then, just like with the sword, I have my choices. Boom, 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 and I can go through and hit them however I want. Every time we hit them one time, we're using that to distract them from something else we want to do. He's not going to stand there and let me hit him. So as soon as you throw that punch, throw it the other one. And he touched me on the top of the head because I threw my elbow up too high. I did not follow my own advice and keep my body within my silhouette. Can you do that thing? Yes, sir. Same pace? Yeah. Nothing says good morning like a liver shot. Or kidney. Or kidney. Yeah, kidney, not liver. Liver's here.
Liver, kidney.
Green. Kidney. You can choose where you want to hit them. If I get them turned around, go ahead and come. Oh, I was wrong. Do it again, please. Now, play into that. Let them piss blood for about a week. But I can use the same mechanical advantages of my arm. But because I have a hinge, I have two different weapons. Foible, or foible, mezza forte, foible, mezza forte. You can use the forte of your shoulder as well. He gets in tight, he throws that, and I drive in. Now, it's my forte on his forte. But then I take his foible to my body, which is all forte, and I can break the arm. Right?
Good.
So we can follow the same rules with this. We'll do that one more time. Good, huh? Right? Step in, forte to forte, and then I'm taking his foible and snapping it there. And if he's squirrely, grab onto his testicles, go, are these yours as you do his arm?
I will be not paying attention to the arm for that split second.
This does not work in MMA matches. They dislike this. So this is, Fiore says that there are two kinds of play. There's for war and for play. Fiore says every night should start in the tournament because it's safer and you're less likely to die. Not that you're not going to die, you're just less likely to die than if you go to war. So he suggests that you start in the tournament. There's another knight, and I can't think of his name right now, I'll find him. He says, a man cannot be a knight until he's heard his bones crack, spit his own teeth, and seen his blood flow. Then he can be a knight. And that's just their play. So you have play and war. The way I like to describe it here at the school is we have a martial art and then there's violence. And the difference between martial art and violence is rules. So the tournament is the martial art. There's certain things I'm not going to do because I like him and I want to continue to be friends with him and not go to jail. But if it's my life on the line, that's a whole different thing. We are not doing this is how you stay alive in a battle, blah blah blah. I'm not Cobra Kai. Although sometimes I do yell Cobra Kai because it amuses me.
Yeah.
So once again, going back to the parts of the blade. We worked on the outside. If you give me that blow again. Foible to foible, forte to forte, foible to forte. I can also work on the inside. Do that again. Foible to foible. That hand comes through. Now, foible to forte. And the reason I'm going foible to forte on this side is because all his energy is moving in one direction, and I only need a small amount of energy to change his trajectory, which keeps him safe. George Silver in 1599 said, talking about the rapiers and the thrust, the problem with a thrust is it only takes the power of a child to set it aside. So if I have a straight punch coming in at me, I don't need to move it very far to not get hit. So if we do that again, foible to foible, foible to forte. Then again, I've got blows that I can do, and I can put them into other actions. And learning how to shift from one mechanical position to another means you can move through different things. What's that? What are some of the variants of the basic attacks? Are there diagonal fendentes? Oh, okay. Foible, 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 Pokemon talk. And got that teeth there. All right, so let's go back to sleep. Sure. The diagonal fendentes. We have two things in the Getty manuscript that he talks about the trajectory of blows. Verbally, in writing, he says that a fendente is from the eye to the knee. However, in the Seino, it's actually the shoulder to the hip, or maybe the jaw to the hip. The Seino is in the one-handed sword section, not the two-handed sword section. So, because I've got one hand on it, I'm able to protect my hand with different parts of my blade. And I only have one arm connected to my blade, which means I don't need to worry about twisting my body in such a way that it leaves me weak. Structure. So with a pendente, I have a whole video here on the YouTube channel about the difference between trajectory and target and the way to perform the cuts. So I'd invite you to go take a look at those. One of the things that I see a lot going around is Mazana done as a horizontal blow. Fiore says that the Mazana, the half cut, is done between the teeth and the knee. So, I'm sorry, between the eye and the knee. Between the eye and the knee. So the way that's been taken to mean is that it's a horizontal cut that goes like at his neck, at his ribs, and swing it like a baseball bat. If I do that, I have no protection. So go ahead, I'm going to swing like with that horizontal cut. Okay. All my energy is here going on this plane, but when my partner comes down at me, his energy is coming over the top to my flat. Then we have the mechanical advantage of edge to flat, as well as dynamic to static. My dynamic movement is on this plane here. This is my dynamic movement. But because of that, my static line is up and down. His dynamic movement is up and down. So when his dynamic beats my static, he will always be stronger. And I have no protection, no way to hide behind my quilling. So if I throw that blow, back up a little bit, he doesn't need to do much to take my fingers, because now my hand is leading my sword and I have no protection. This is different if I have a cage over my hand. I can do that. But because I only have simple quillings, I need to use my forte as if it's a bulletproof vest over my sternum. With the cage, I can use my cage like that sternum. I'm sorry, like that bulletproof vest over my sternum. So if I do a horizontal cut, I have no protection. However, if I follow the same trajectory of a indente or a slatani with that action, let me do that again. Now, go home. You'll notice I'm not hitting. So I'm in line right over him. Okay. You see, he's going right past me, but I'm in line with his head because I followed the same trajectory of a pendental. However, if I do that with a horizontal cut, what happens? I have no protection whatsoever. As a general rule, from our dominant side, we use our true edge. From our weak side, we use our false edge. And I want to make sure that when I'm doing these actions, the reason I want to follow those rules is so that I've lined up my structure and hidden myself behind my sword. But like any rule, we need to know what the rules are, and then we break them when it's tactically advisable. So I will break the rule about a horizontal cut. One of my favorite actions, give me a minute. I'll come through and I'll capture it, and I'll take it, and then I'll just cut through with a horizontal cut. And the reason for that is because I've already grabbed his sword. He can't use it. If he pulls it back, he just pulls me harder into the blow. I can do this, but there's a chance that I might catch his sword. But because I'm pulling horizontal, he can actually pull me into the blow, and there's no way he can get his defense up into play. So, do we do horizontal cuts? Yes, but that's an exception to the rule, not the rule. So what do we have here? So now, what are some of the variants and basic attacks? Are there?
That's all we got.
All right. So there we talked about the interplay of the mechanical advantages of the blade with the sword as well as with the hand. And the sword, I have all the different parts that we listed off. We also have edge to flat, strong to weak, and false edge to true edge. And believe it or not, you can be in a stronger position with your false edge against their true edge than your true edge against their true edge. And that's for a couple of reasons. So keep up first. And we're in true edge to true edge. You can see he's taller than me. He's going over my blade and it's yielding. There's no way I can stop him. He's taller than me. He has better leverage than me. We were at meza to meza on each other. What are we going to do? And we toss, and we push it, and I kind of fight him, and it doesn't work. However, if we begin, push it. I don't need to worry about it. And I don't push it. I'm also lined up to the size of my true edge. So when he pushes, let me go and take it back. He pushes, and I use that, and he actually is on top of my sword, helping me to drive it into his path.
Now? Okay. So this is actually a clear piece here from Sunday's last video that we did on Facebook Live, where we were working on a very drill on a technique directly from the manuscript that works on this exact what's the word I'm looking for now? Mechanics of this action that we we're just talking about. And when he did it, he glanced off of my mask, and I fed his sword so hard into my shoulder. I have a cut here, right inside of that spot, and he could sleep on me. It was because I fed that energy right back into myself.
Felt a little bad about that. A little bit. It was still cool. The thing to remember, you need to work out. You need to stay healthy to do this. The best way to build up the muscles you're going to use in a sword fight is to practice swinging things heavy. Use your sword. Just lifting weights will build up your muscles, but not necessarily give you the usable strength you need for your sword. Because we use different muscle groups than you'll get just going to the gym. So you've got to use your sword. And the more you use your sword, the more comfortable and fluid your body becomes in all these different actions. So sword fighting isn't about strength. You need strength, but sword fighting is about mechanical and structural strength, not muscular. So as we're practicing these, we're going to look at different ways that we can incorporate structure behind our sword and not rely on just our strength. One of my favorite questions to ask people at school is, what happens if I'm not your first fight? Worse yet, what if I'm not your last? Now you have to go through John, then me, and then two other people to get out. If you blow all your energy on one or the two of us, how are you going to get through those other two? So develop the structure to support your work. The muscles and the strength of your muscles are only a support to the structure, not what you rely on. Great example of this. My father had polio as a child. And in the 80s, he had it in his legs. In the 80s, there was a whole new disease showing up called PPS, post polio syndrome. And what polio did was destroy the large muscle groups. But the survivors of polio, while they weren't able to use their large muscle group, their smaller muscle group took up the slack and continued to help them move around and live a normal life. But then, about 30 years later, those those muscle groups, those smaller muscle groups, started giving out, and that's when we were introduced to the new disease of post-polio syndrome. If I rely on just the muscles of my body, I'm doing the same thing. These are gonna give out. I need the structure to support everything I do. That's why on the signal, the signal, the elephant is holding a tower. This is all about structure. And that's something I'm going to be spending time on the Patreon page. I'll do a little bit here on YouTube, but for more of the in-depth, that'll be on our Patreon page. And you need your support to give your actions the proper swing. You can swing a hammer and eventually break a piece of wood, but it won't work as well as if you have the structure of an axe to go through that wood. Just because you have a tool doesn't mean it's the correct. So with that, do we have any last comment? Uh, Dagger versus longsword. Would you be willing to?
I think it wouldn't work practicing.
We have one?
I have to.
Oh, sure. And then James said, would you be willing to go over a fendente into a fendente sinestra? Fendente to middle iron door, to open iron door, to falcone. On the left, focusing on the bit where you turn the hands over. Sure. This is also in our the video I did on the trajectory of the cuts. But if I'm in open iron door here, when I go to middle iron door, which is in front of me, I have two options for middle iron door. I can hold my false edge up, or I can hold my true edge up. And my sword doesn't care. The relation of true edge and false edge is in my hand, not the tool. The false edge is in line with my thumb. The true edge is in line with my finger. So when I come from open iron door, if I turn my hand so my thumb goes to my finger, I'm now leading with my false edge. However, if I'm here, and as I come to middle iron door, I close my fingers to my palm, now I'm leading with my true edge because I'm rolling this edge up. So what this looks like is from here, open iron door to middle iron door. Now I'm with my false edge going to my right shoulder to protect my arm with my crow. If I go to my left shoulder, this arm has no protection whatsoever. So in that case, I need to go to my true edge. And I do that by going to middle iron door and closing my fingers to my palm. And if you look at the pommel, the sword is turning in my hand. I'm not gripping the pommel at all. I keep my fingers around the pommel, but I don't grip it. Then as I come to middle iron door, true edge up, I go to Falcone on the left and woman's guard, and my quillin is protecting my arm. So the difference between attacking with your true edge or your false edge is how you close your hand. Do you close your hand thumb to your pinky like this, or do you close your hand pinky to your thumb like this? So a good exercise sitting on the couch, watching your favorite movie, just practice doing both. I like doing this because as I'm doing this, my middle finger doesn't really move and everything rotates around my middle finger. Here I'm holding it tight with my index finger and thumb. Here I'm holding it tight with my pinky and ring finger. And then I have this rotation on my wrist. And each one of those is going to affect the edge that I use. Is there another question?
No, that was, you covered Satani. Did you also cover the Pendente, which was that?
No, I did not.
Okay. So Pendente to Pendente Sinestro rotational pathway of the guards is also being requested. And it's baton versus dagger as all is as well as what is being requested. Let's see if I find it. Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that. Yeah. So my Pendente, to transfer from a Pendente to a Pendente Sinestro, I pull it back, I extend my arm out so that my elbow is just inside my rib, and I turn my pommel. Now, you see the angle of my quillins, I turn it to there. That's the amount of movement I need. At this point, when I'm doing my Pendente, my true edge quillin is in line with the first knuckle of my finger. When I'm doing a Pendente Sinestra, the quillin is in line with the middle knuckle of my finger. So if I do a Pendente like this, I get my Pendente. If I pull it down and I rotate to the middle knuckle, now I get a Pendente Sinestra. So the rotation is simply from this knuckle to this knuckle. That's as much movement as you do with your edge. And your right hand does not move. It's only turning the pommel, not the lead hand. So we're going to do baton one time, or do one thing with baton, and then we're going to call it until our next class, which is going to be on Saturday. If you have more questions, I would love to hear them. Please post them, and we'll cover them on the next class. So if I can use that, thank you. Yeah. Remember. So if I am holding my baton, I'm going to start with it just down because I'm using it to point at my minions and my peasants. That'd be so. But then while I'm out telling my minions and my peasants where to go and what crops to pick and what to do, I get attacked by the neighboring lord who wants my peasants and my minions. I dislike that. So as he attacks with that glove, go slow because this will hold it. I'm going to step in and I'm going to do a double grip. And now he can just easily take my hand or strike my hand. Go ahead and strike my hand. And now I'm no longer doing anything. When I step in, I can't wait for him to come in. Yeah, take my hand. Okay. Take my hand. Go, take my hand. And I close in on him. So I'm pointing at my minions. I'm not even looking at him. And he attacks me, and I step out this way. Then I'm going to poke him in the throat one time to get his attention. Step through and throw him down, and then put my minions on him. Good? Yep. Sorry, I should poke that. I can feel it. So, good? I'm good. Let's do it one more time. No problem. All right. So I'm pointing at my minions. I get a tap. I step in, poke him in the throat, step behind his leg, and then lay him down. Remember, like Master King said, no, ah! He stopped the door. So there's no timeouts in a sword fight. So I can use the baton, but I have to step in. James, you are very welcome. I'm glad you liked it. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. We are going to be back on Saturday at 2 p.m. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. Keep yourself safe. Thank you. Keep yourself safe. Protect your family, your friends, and those around you. And until we are able to get together again, I bid you a very fond adieu. Well then. Great.